So we're going to start here with the bucket system. Victor Hovland's your winner, by the way. I don't want to go into a review there. I just want you to look here first. We'll make this review short and sweet. This is the column I want you to pay attention to. If you're watching any of the preview video or the preview video for the Memorial Tournament, basically I told you, we went bucket by bucket. Told you what to expect from that bucket to finish inside the top 10. And that's essentially what this sheet that you see on the screen is telling all of you. The projections we see here, the amount of top 10 golfers that came from those buckets, as well as the optimal lineup. And the column here that says success is looking at the projection and then seeing first, does this number fall inside the projection? If not, does this number? If there's a true statement in there, then the bucket is successful. I will scroll through this slowly. You can pause the video. You can look at the projections versus the successes, how many finished inside the top 10, what was in the optimal, and all that stuff. So you can double check this with me, but the formula's in there, pretty bulletproof. All but one bucket succeeded. All but one. And that was our last week ones. So last week one is golfers who had top 20 the week before. So we're looking at the Memorial Tournament. Golfers who play in the Charles Schwab Challenge. That was the tournament that preceded the Memorial. Normally, we don't see golfers coming into the Memorial who had played the week before and had success, finishing inside the top 20, do well at the Memorial Tournament. This week was a little different. We had 4 golfers inside the top 10. Furthermore, we had 3 of them finish in the optimal lineup. So therefore, the bucket failed. And that's the only bucket that did fail. When it comes to the projections, this is again me projecting how many golfers from that bucket finish inside the top 10. Now, this is useful information because when we just look at this first bucket, I am projecting 1, because we always round down with the minimum projection, to 3, we always round up with the maximum projection, so 1 to 3 to be inside the top 10. Well, there were 4, so technically I was wrong. However, since I'm always targeting the optimal lineup, it really only matters with the optimal. And here you have it. 2 golfers finished in the optimal lineup. Therefore, that hits the projection I had. Well, there were 16 golfers to choose from. So what you could have done is, okay, 1 to 3 was your projection. Don't play more than 3. Well, there were 4 that finished inside the top 10. You probably could have done pretty decent if you did select 3 of them. What this helps you do when building lineups is eliminate the other 13 golfers that were in that bucket total that year. Because again, it was a total of 16. And I'm telling you, don't play more than 3. You want somewhere between 1 to 3, but don't play more than 3. Which automatically means you eliminate 13 golfers from your player pool by looking at this bucket. And that's applied through each and every one of the other buckets that I have on here. To me, it makes lineup building, I love building lineups using the bucket system. And I apply that to my optimizer, which I'll just throw it on the screen right now. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me go to this one. So let me throw this over here. This is from the Memorial Tournament. This optimizer utilizes all of the buckets. So you can see all the buckets. All right. You see all the buckets right here. We can look at the minimums that I have. So can you see the similarities here? I'm going to actually do this little number here. So this is the criteria that I have for buckets. Do you see how this matches the last year buckets over here? For last year 1, I had 1 to 3. You can see 1 to 3. 0 to 2, because there's always a 2-point buffer. 0 to 2 for the next 4 buckets. And you can see that matches. I mean, these are all part of the rules with the preview video, so I'd recommend watching that if you have any kind of questions here. But you can see last year's 6 right here, 1 to 3, 1 to 3. This, I build lineups exclusively with this. We were really, really close to making a lot of money this week. I have a strategy when it comes to building lineups, just for contest selection, that I have shared last week in the strategy video, that I will also share again this week in the strategy video, that I think nets me the best results on getting my money back. if not just a little bit more. So I'll share that once again. But I use the optimizer exclusively. Again, almost made a lot of money this week. And just a little under break even, which was unfortunate. Wyndham Clark, his last 2 holes, I mean, I think that double bogey on the last hole cost me $140. So I could have had much more money if he doesn't double bogey that hole, because I missed out on a winner take all by I think 1.5 points. And with Wyndham's double bogey, he dropped down like 4 places or 5 places, whatever it ended up being, and the double bogey was minus 1 point. So I had that winner take all in the bag until he did that. So anyways, yeah, how this reads is 35 out of 36 buckets were successful. Now, to review one more piece of well, actually, we can go here and look at the optimal lineup versus the GPP versus the SweetSpot optimal. We'll get in the SweetSpot optimal at the end. Your optimal lineup left $200 on the table. It scored 539 points, and it used Victor Hovland, Denny McCarthy, Scotty Scheffler, Siwoo Kim, Andrew Putnam, and Adam Schenk. So that was a 10K golfer in Scotty Scheffler, 9K golfer in Victor Hovland, 8K golfer in Siwoo Kim, $7,600 Denny McCarthy, and then 2 6K golfers in Andrew Putnam and Adam Schenk. Again, left $200 on the table. Your GPP winning lineup left $300 on the table, and it scored 512. Just to compare that to the optimal scored 539. So there's 27 points, my bad, between the two. It's pretty darn good. Pretty close. The GPP was very close to the optimal lineup. That lineup had Victor Hovland, Denny McCarthy, Siwoo Kim, so 3 optimal lineup golfers, and then Adam Scott, Ricky Fowler, and Russell Henley. So that's all good and dandy. Now, every single week I tweet out what the SweetSpot optimal was. And the SweetSpot optimal follows all of the rules. Before I show you how many points that scored, because what I deem a success for the SweetSpot process is if we follow the rules exactly to the T that I describe every single week. If we beat the GPP winning lineup, it was 100% successful. Of course, I want to hit the optimal lineup, but the whole tagline is aim for the optimal lineup, because if you miss, you might win a GPP instead. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. Aim small, miss small. So when it comes to the SweetSpot optimal, there's one more thing to include. Other than the buckets, we got to include the Marquee Tee Times, which means putting a filter on this and sorting this out by group rank. So top to bottom, group 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I'm going to highlight these in groups of 3. That way you can see them on the screen. Now, the rule when it comes to the Marquee Tee Times is you select 2 to 4 groups. 2 to 4 groups. And then you only select 1 golfer from those groups. There are 9 groups to select from, and you need to select 2 to 4. But only 1 golfer from each of those groups. Because we normally do not see golfers from the same golf, like multiple golfers from the same group, be in the optimal lineup. As you can see on the screen already, these little black tick marks indicate the optimal lineup. And sure enough, we have Victor Hovland and Scotty Scheffler in the same group in the optimal lineup. So the Marquee Tee Times didn't work this week. It was Victor and Scotty, Siwoo, and Denny McCarthy. But wait a minute, there were 4 golfers, so no more than 4. Again, 2 golfers are in the same group. So how does that look like with the SweetSpot optimal? Well, of course, we can't select both Victor and Scotty. We got to choose one. But I use the optimizer to do this for me. Your SweetSpot optimal had Victor Hovland at 9,700, Matt Fitzpatrick at 9,000, Siwoo Kim at 8,000, and Denny McCarthy at $7,600. If you started this way, those 4 golfers, and by the way, Denny McCarthy I was touting him all week. He was one of those guys that I kind of highlighted from performance trends. Not so much just a gut feeling or anything like that, but from performance trends. I talked about this in the strategy video. Go check that strategy video out when I talked about the 7K range. He was one golfer I highlighted. I wanted him in my lineups. I don't think I start Victor Hovland, though. I always like to start 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, but doing two 9K golfers, that's pretty decent. But anyways, you start with those 4 golfers. We go back to this page. You can see Victor Hovland was chosen, Denny McCarthy was chosen, I think it was Siwoo Kim, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Start with those 3 or those 4 golfers. Let me just double check it was Siwoo. Yeah, Siwoo Kim. So you start with those 4 golfers. Then we add in Adam Scott at $8,000 and Eric Cole at $6,900. That uses up $49,200. That's also very difficult to build around because leaving $800 on the table is a little bit more challenging than what meets the eye. You know, at first glance, maybe it's not hard for you to think that, but leaving $800 on the table is kind of challenging. At SweetSpot Optimal scored 525.5 points. So again, 525.5. I told you if this beats the GPP winning lineup, the SweetSpot process was 100% successful. You forgot the GPP winning lineup scored 512. So 525 beats 512, meaning the SweetSpot process, if you followed it, you could have taken down the $5 GPP, giving you $50,000. So yes, SweetSpot process was 100% successful. At least that's how I deem success. Again, I want to hit the optimal, but I'm pretty cool with taking down a GPP instead. So that was your review, basically the SweetSpot process during the Memorial Tournament.